But still, if our motive is to please Prabhupada, then we're rightly situated. We may not have the capacity, we don't have the capacity he did, but still we can become pure devotees by following his instruction, following his footsteps. So although he was an extraordinary spiritual master, he wanted us all to become spiritual masters. The spiritual master is not a very difficult job. Simply we have to repeat the instruction of the Lord and his representative. Then we can also benefit people. Spiritual master really is simply someone who brings people to Krishna. The first spiritual master is Lord Nityananda. So he was going out, bringing people to Lord Chaitanya. This is the mood of the spiritual master. He wants to bring everyone to Krishna's feet. He wants to increase Krishna's family. Also, we're all part of Krishna, but we've forgotten that due to our illusion. So the Lord comes, he sends his pure representative like Srila Prabhupada to canvas. Don't remain rotting in this material world, birth after birth. Come to the spiritual side where you have eternal life, full of knowledge and good. So if we ourselves take that instruction, and then we invite others to also take part in this wonderful movement, then we become spiritual masters. Not that we have to have some extraordinary mystic power or something. This is all very nice, somebody has mystic power, but that's not required. The power is, like Prabhupada said, when he was asked to show a miracle, he said, my miracle is that I've changed so many young boys and girls, from drug-addicted hippies to lovers of God and humanity. And the devotee will become a lover of humanity, because we'll see that everyone is part of Krishna, so we won't have any envy for anyone, like the Goswamis would describe. They were appreciated by the ruffian and the gentle because they were non-envious. Everybody could see that they didn't have anything against me. So that was what Prabhupada's unique position. I remember one time thinking, well, what is it? One quality, if I had to describe, that Prabhupada had, that was so extraordinary, was that he was everyone's friend. He would always try to bring everybody. See a little spark, and he would fan the spark, and so that everyone felt that he cared for us, that he was a well-wisher. And he was. It wasn't some bluff. He was actually a well-wisher. He wasn't trying to exploit us in any way. Rather, he was always giving. He came here with nothing but his mantra, a few rupees, but he gave the greatest gift, priceless gift. So it's always auspicious when we have opportunity to remember Prabhupada, to speak about him, just by remembering him and talking about him, we become purified. Such a nice thing. Therefore, sometimes we say the spiritual master is even more kind than the Lord. Because the Lord is everyone's heart, he's there, but he's more like neutral. But the pure devotee, he knows the mission of the Lord, therefore he canvasses. Prabhupada was very bold. He went out, he didn't care for his own comfort or position. Because he knew the mission of the Lord. So he took the mission of the Lord. Therefore, he's even more, you can say, kind than the Lord, in a sense. By the Lord's mercy, he becomes more kind. The Lord likes to see his devotee glorified. There's a competition between the Lord and the devotee. The devotee wants to glorify the Lord, and the Lord wants to glorify the devotee. So if we also glorify the devotee, then the Lord, we're assisting the Lord, and he very quickly becomes pleased. Oh, you also appreciate my pure devotee. This is my mood. I want to see Srila Prabhupada glorified. So you're helping me. Then we quickly get mercy from Krishna. So by the mercy of the spiritual master, we get the mercy of Krishna. So everyone can take this opportunity. These days come regularly. Of course, we're supposed to remember the spiritual master 3 times a day, at least. And actually everything we do, we should think, why am I doing this? I'm doing it on the order of the spiritual master. To assist him in his mission of spreading Krishna consciousness all over the world. So there's no way I have words to thank Prabhupada, but His mercy is there for everyone. So I hope they'll scoop a little particle of that mercy. Srila Prabhupada ki.
Yeah.
I was born in the darkness of ignorance. My spiritual master opened my eyes to the torchlight of knowledge. I think the greatest quality of Srila Prabhupada is his mercy. That he came at a time when the planet was very degraded. I know I was in the 70s, we were all engaged in the hippie movement, and it was a pretty degrading time. But Prabhupada chose to come at that time and walk amongst us and live with us, and with the sole intention of elevating our consciousness and giving us Krishna consciousness. So Srila Prabhupada's mercy has no limit. We've all had experience of how Prabhupada has come into our life and how he's given us Krishna. And when I think of what I personally would be doing now if it wasn't for Srila Prabhupada, I can't even imagine. So first of all, I would like to thank Srila Prabhupada so much for coming into my life, even though I'm a very fallen and lowly disciple. And I can only pray that one day I become worthy to be called your disciple. I'd like to tell one story of how in 1977, how we heard of Srila Prabhupada's passing. We were in Pittsburgh at the time, managing a temple there, and there was maybe 15, 20 devotees. It was a Sankirtan base. And at that time, we were just, I don't remember the exact details of what we were doing, but we received a phone call from Kirtanananda down in New Vrindavan, which is about an hour and a half from Pittsburgh. He said, Srila Prabhupada has just left this world. He's gone back to the spiritual world. Please come down here as quick as possible. We're going to have some ceremonies. So we had big Sankirtan vans, so we all piled in one van. And immediately we started this just loud and uproarious kirtan. Devotees were crying and in shock and bewildered, and so we started driving. I was driving, and the whole time, I don't even remember the trip. It was like we were in this, they call it this zone, you know, we were just like awestruck. And so the last part of the road was through these winding roads till we got to the New Vrindavan entrance, and I must have been going 80 miles on these roads that were meant for like maybe 30 miles an hour. All the devotees were crying and chanting, and it was very amazing. And then all of a sudden there was a siren behind us. You know, I don't know how fast I was going, but extremely fast. And so I pulled over, and the kirtan just kept going. The van was just shaking with the energy of this kirtan, and the devotees, the emotions being poured forth from the devotees. And the policeman came. I rolled the window down, and he stepped back because the blast must have just like hit him. And I said, "Sir, I'm so sorry. I know I was going fast, but we just heard that our spiritual master has left the planet, and we're coming down here to New Vrindavan for a ceremony." And I was crying. Everybody, and he kind of looks in the van, and everybody's crying. And I could see that emotion from in there came, and it took him like by surprise. He was never in a million years would have expected this. And he actually got little tears in his eyes. I mean, his eyes glistened over. And he said, "Okay," he said, "be careful." And he walked away really slow. And so we were exhibiting these symptoms of sadness and separation. But actually, right now we're celebrating something. We're celebrating the passing of the Prabhupada leaving this planet and going back to be with Krishna in his eternal rasa. So that's actually a glorious thing, but it's a sad thing. We're sad because we can't have Prabhupada's personal association, but as Prabhupada told us all, I'm in my instructions. So if we can just try to keep Prabhupada's instructions close at heart. We have a wonderful example in Trivikram Swami Maharaj. He's, thankfully, he's one of the most conservative and stick to Prabhupada's instructions men I've ever known or met. And I feel fortunate to have his association, which came by the mercy of Srila Prabhupada.
Prabhupada ki
Jai.
I don't like to say much, but one thing that I remember, I mean, Prabhupada, he was always teaching us, you know, like he, like my mom was saying, Mars was saying, and we're just in the darkness of ignorance, and Prabhupada came to lift us from out of that darkness, and you know, up to the end, because like your Prabhupada was saying, you know, when Prabhupada was leaving, it was like very, very sad. I mean, it was very, you know, it was very sad, but at the same time, because, you know, Prabhupada always came to teach us, even came to teach us how to leave the world. And so Prabhupada was never bothered by the bodily condition. You'd think that he'd be affected by, he wasn't even eating or anything like that. But like, for example, one time, Jared, you probably know this story, but when Prabhupada was sick, he, a lot of times he would just lay in bed. And it would seem like he'd be asleep, like on one occasion. And then Bhardaraj, he would be there playing for hours and hours, playing harmonium and singing nice songs. And so it would seem like Prabhupada was asleep. And Bhardaraj would be, no, it wasn't Bhardaraj. Anyhow, right now I don't remember the name. But he'd be singing and singing and singing and singing. And then he's singing a song, and just like sometimes one forgets the words of the song. And so he stopped like looking for the words. And everybody thought Prabhupada was asleep. And then just Prabhupada turns over and tells him the word of the songs, and then just goes back supposedly to sleep. So Prabhupada was always conscious and always knew what's happening. And so like that, even at the time of leaving, he came to teach us. And on one hand, it was like very sad. Fortunately, they're like devotees try to keep some composure, because otherwise, some devotees just couldn't hold it, just broke down crying like that. But one thing that I remember was that the kirtan was so amazing. It was like celestial. It was just celestial. It was beautiful. So like that was how Prabhupada left his body, but it wasn't. It was just like everything else he did. It was like actually very glorious.
Namo Vishnu Purnai Bhakti Vedanta Swami. Jai Shri Prabhupada. I was thinking a little bit today about the importance of the personality of Srila Prabhupada, the magnitude. Sometimes we might take for granted, having come to this movement and reading Prabhupada's books daily and having some association with him. But really to understand how rare of a person that Prabhupada is. Sometimes we don't grasp that. Sometimes the comparison is made, or we hear sometimes Maharaj will say that Prabhupada was even, I don't know if it's proper to say, compare devotees, but greater, at least greater with his message than the message that Jesus brought. Being that Prabhupada was bringing individuals to the level of the level of pure devotion. And after 2,000 some years that Jesus left this planet, me personally growing up, it was hard to really view Jesus as a person. It was more like some great story, but you couldn't really imagine somebody actually walking amongst you, displaying the traits and the gravity of that we hear about with Jesus. And that's when I first came to Krishna consciousness and I started reading Prabhupada's books. I remember one night just feeling like unfortunate that I missed, just by a little bit, missed having that direct association with Srila Prabhupada. And I was kind of lamenting a little bit like that, and because I had read you should take a spiritual master, and I was thinking, how could I take a spiritual master? So I kind of took rest in that mood, and I had a dream, and in the dream I saw Srila Prabhupada. And I've told this story before. Anyway, the point of the dream was that in the dream Srila Prabhupada ended up bringing me to my spiritual master. So Prabhupada's mercy continues. I mean, even we're trying to have a relationship with Prabhupada in separation, like we have a relationship with the deities in separation, but Prabhupada is also present. He's present in his books. He's present in his devotees. He's present in those who are following his teachings. So he's present in many ways. We shouldn't think that Prabhupada is not present, that he's gone and left, because he's still very much involved, watching over and seeing what's going on. I was also thinking a little bit today about how Jesus portrayed so many miracles that made masses of people come to him. And so for the average person, they would say that, without delving into the teachings of Srila Prabhupada and actually taking to the process, it's hard to really realize the magnitude of Srila Prabhupada. But Prabhupada didn't want cheap followers. He wanted, he could have done many miracles and had masses following him, just like Jesus. But he wasn't looking for cheap followers. He was looking for people who were sincere, and those people that were sincere that would come, then he would fan the spark and bring them to Krishna. So I was kind of thinking like that, and I was reading a little bit, and I came across this one. I'd read this book before, but I didn't remember this little part. This is by Guru Das, by his example. And I came across this one part that kind of struck me here. Guru Das writes, "Late at night when everyone else was asleep, it was a nice time to be with Prabhupada. He was usually in a very mellow mood. So if I wanted to have his precious darshan, I would sometimes stand outside his door and make slight noises. So he would come out to see what the noise was and invite me in. We were staying in the new quarters at Mayapur, in the first of 4 large residence buildings. The sky was overcast, and I was yearning for Prabhupada's association. So I went near his rooms and made walking and chanting sounds. No servants were around, so Prabhupada came out himself saying, "Who is that?" He saw me chanting, smiled, and came all the way out of his quarters. Srila Prabhupada walked up and down on the balcony with me, and then turned towards the fields and walked to the balcony railing. He looked out and said, "The farmers beg Krishna for rainwater." He paused briefly. "All right, take it." As Prabhupada swept his hand down as if dispensing rain, a lightning bolt crashed. Suddenly the sky opened and rain came furiously. "Take it," he said quietly, and walked into his rooms.
Wow.
Srila Prabhupada ki
Yeah.
So there's other stories that sometimes we hear when we hear the disciples of Prabhupada talk about his displaying some mystic powers when needed. He didn't do it often or for show, but don't think that it wasn't there. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. I would like to thank Srila Prabhupada for giving his dedication to bring everyone to the lotus feet of Krishna. He put so much work into his books so everyone could benefit, especially for his future grand disciples and grand disciples. So we could have an association with him through his books and his instructions. And it's very important to really realize his instructions and bring them into your heart. Because mostly, for some, these instructions may go in one ear and out the other, or sometimes it will go over your head. But you really have to really read these books every day and try to understand what he's really given. And he's given this Gauravani, this message that was brought from Lord Chaitanya down to Rupa Goswami and down to the predecessor acharyas. And so this is a great gift Srila Prabhupada has given us. And we have to pray for him that bhakti will one day sprout in our hearts, and that lobha will come about, that genuine greed to attain Krishna and come back to the spiritual world and assist Srila Prabhupada in serving Krishna in that way. So Srila Prabhupada.
Jai.
Maybe a year or so, Prabhupada's secretary, Krishna Maharaj and others, they were giving paraphernalia. Maybe it was before, less than a year. Like somebody, I got from the Prabhupada's watch, one watch, Prabhupada had so many watches, and somebody else got, some other artifact of Prabhupada's personal. They were giving to their senior sannyasis and so on. So I remember Pushkar was getting in. Pushkar, he didn't get anything. He was just smiling. He said, "That's okay. I got Prabhupada's books." So we all have Prabhupada's books. That's really the greatest gift, and we should take advantage of it. I think that was the point Jayananda was making. Okay, anyone else?